All right, good morning. Jim Hudson, Operations Section Chief with CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 5 with your report on the south zone of the monument incident. Crews continue to build depth and mop up and extinguish the interior of the fire in and around Junction City, working around Dutch Creek to the south. The fire continues to back slowly down to Dutch Creek, and we're utilizing that as our primary line and building depth and mop up as we move in. As we move down to the south from Evans Bar down to the spot fire that we had about 4 days ago now to the west of Douglas City, crews have gotten in there and put in dozer line all the way around that, continue to mop up. It does have hose all the way around it, and they are getting good black line around that area. Plan remains the same as previous operational periods for the east side of the fire, basically using Dutch Creek down to Maxwell Creek Road as our primary area or our line in the sand to hold the fire as crews work as direct as possible along the fire edge as possible, and in some areas move back and do alternate line or secondary line where we've been improving throughout the course of this week. Moving down to the southwest of Douglas City, the spot fire has been connected to the main body of the fire, and crews continue to extinguish in that area. Down along Highway 3, we've put in alternate or secondary line that continues to be improved, and crews are working vigorously to make sure that we go as direct as possible up towards the top of that and extinguish it as well. Our priority for today is the area north of Hayfork. We did have a north wind come up yesterday and cause a couple spot fires across the line. Crews were able to jump on those right away, get them wrapped, and they are currently mopping those up. So with the change in weather, as we get the evening north winds potentially again, we will be surging resources into this area and working aggressively to protect any structures within the area, jump on any spot fires that occur, and putting alternate line down out to the zone break with the north zone. And we'll also be beginning to develop alternate line up towards the Patterson Peak area in coordination with the Alaska team in the north zone. Thank you.
Good morning, Karen Scholl, Operations Section Chief with the Alaska Incident Management Team, working on the north zone of the monument fire. Today, Monday, August 23rd, for your morning update. Starting on the west side of the fire, basically from Coral Bottom all the way around to the Burnt Ranch area is in an active patrol. We're doing some mop-up where it's safe to, but pretty much everything along this south and western area is looking really good today. And overnight, a little bit of mop-up in there, but things are holding very well in here. Today's plan, again, for this area is active patrol and mop up where they can. Up in the Bell Flat, Trinity Village, Hawkins Bar area, we continue to have folks down in the Bell Flat area, and they'll remain there as long as there's kind of a threat from Ironside. And as you know, the fire's hanging up on Ironside. It's coming down at its own pace, and that's good. We have folks down at the confluence, kind of watching and monitoring and trying to see through that canyon. It's a real steep, narrow canyon with lots of fuel loading on it. So we are concerned with that, but with the cap, it's not moving real fast, and it's coming down at its own pace, and that's advantageous for us. We do have folks scouting up Denny Road and putting dozers up in that area to open it up and make sure that we have a chance at holding that should anything come out of across the New River and start moving. So that's happening today. We have folks up on Hoboken Ridge putting in dozer lines and then prepping those dozer lines. Again, we can't just put the dozer in and call it good. We have to go in and do some mastication. We have to clear brush. We have to drop snags. And then we're working on putting plumbing in, which is pumps and hose and snap tanks or folded tanks of water so that in places where there's no water, the engines can go and we can drive the hose lays from those areas. So lots of activity. You may not see a lot of it because it's kind of up in the hills, but just know that firefighters are out there doing a lot of the prep work today. Around Trinity Village, you'll continue to see firefighters in that area. We've got a plan to open up some existing dozer lines around Trinity Village, historic lines that have been put in before. That'll give our firefighters a place to stand and defend. And then we're also walking in and prepping and assessing houses and structures within Trinity Village area. And that's a big focus for today. Not just Trinity, but we've got folks in Hawkins Bar as well. So all the communities and in holdings in that corridor. Continue to do your part with the firewizing of your own homes if you're in that area. And if you need assistance or want to know what that looks like, you can find some firefighters out there and ask. And we're certainly willing to help with that. So if you're in the Trinity Village and Hawkins Bar area, look for firefighters and your local fire chief and fire stations, and they'll assist you with what you need to do for your own homes for preparation. As we move across, yesterday in the Big Fork, Big French Creek area, there was a little bit of lifting on the north side of the fire, and this developed a pyrocumulus cloud column on it, and so there's quite a bit of activity. You might have been able to see it depending on where you're located. We saw it on satellite imagery, and so we know it's there. It's taking advantage of the fuels, and that's what's happening. It's still a fuels-driven fire. And so we saw that on the radar yesterday, and we have little concern for it. It's moving north, and we have not a lot of concern, nor do we have resources to put on it at this time. As we get over into the the East Fork of the North Fork, work continues. The snagging and the brushing of the road through East Fork is complete. It's nearly complete up to the Hobo Gulch campground. So that's the destination, Hobo Gulch campground. So they're pretty close to that, and that'll continue. They're also prepping and staging hose and folded tanks along the road where it'll be most advantageous. Mostly this will be a road patrol and using engines on this road if we get fire advancing towards the East Fork, and we're just going to strictly plumb where we need to around structures. The spot fires on the North Fork of the Trinity that we had identified about 6-7 days ago now, those were not showing hardly any heat on our infrared imagery. Doesn't mean there's not some, but we continue to evaluate, and that's a focus for us to just have a good situational awareness of where the fire is located. Work continues on the indirect line or alternate line. So you'll hear that terminology. It's kind of interchangeable. So the indirect line, we have crew up in Canyon Creek putting in the last section of it. So most of it's dozer line, but there is a section that has to be done by hand due to the topography and the roughness. We're not able to get dozers down that. So crew is going in and working on that. That's a couple-day project. We are also continuing to assess and evaluate the dozer lines and the proposed dozer lines in and around the Weaverville area to the north to work as alternate lines and contingency lines. And so that is a continuing effort with CAL FIRE. As we move around, I'll let Jim talk about what's happening down in Weaverville, Junction City, Douglas City, and down in Hayfork. As we move around to our zone break at 9 Mile Bridge, the primary line that we're putting in is really getting scouted for the most advantageous places to put line, and the majority of it is opening up old dozer lines. It's not pioneering new stuff. It's tying roads together, tying forest roads together, and then stitching that together to make a good primary line. We're also continuing to look at lines ahead of that, closer to the fire, as possible alternate lines that we could get in on. So that's it's a lot of big country out there. A lot of scouting is required, and then a lot of talking with the locals and trying to identify where the previous lines have been located, so we're not doing too much additional damage. Work continues up on the Patterson Ridge Road in the Hay Fork, or the Hay Press area. We still are holding on to our anchor point here, so that's excellent for us. As we move across Patterson Ridge, with the mastication and laying of the hose, we're just staying ahead of the main fire. So that's all looking good. They had a little bit of clear air yesterday, so they were able to fly some buckets there, and we'll see what today brings as far as air support. But work continues along the ridge. Work continues down Patterson Jeep Trail, which is a alternate line, and also down Patterson Peak Trail, which is our primary line. And they're tying in together down towards the cutoff and building that box for us. We have a crew going into some in-holdings near Bar 717 and doing some preparation work there. And we're also still assessing and developing plans for the High and Palm area. Today's weather, we're expecting just excuse me, to have that cap over us again. A little bit of clearing perhaps in the afternoon, late afternoon, and we might be able to get some bucket support up in the Bell Flat area. The same thing happened yesterday. We were able to put some buckets late in the afternoon when we got a little clearing. Kind of the same story today for the weather and anticipated fire behavior. And again, this fire has a cap on it, so when the cap comes off, we're going to ventilate and we have opportunity to see fire growth. As previous teams have talked about, this fire is primarily a fuels-driven fire. That means everything out there on the ground is available to burn, and we're not always in that situation, but we are this year, and that's due to long-term drought situation, lack of rain since April. So the grasses are available to burn, the sticks and twigs, and then the logs that are all laying out on the forest floor. Everything is available to burn, and that's what makes this a very difficult fire to extinguish. The other types of fires that we have, what drives fires is topography and then wind. And so when we have all three of those things in alignment, then we can have really large fire growth days, as was experienced early on this fire. Right now, since there's no wind, because we have the cap, the fire is progressing because of the fuels. So it just takes advantage of moving from one piece of fuel to the next piece of fuel, and that's how it progresses. That's what happened up here. Likely they had some rollout off a hill. It got down into a little brush pile, ignites the brush pile, and then it just continues to build and build. And as you have that radiant heat is continuing to suck moisture out of the adjacent fuels, then that fire just keeps progressing. So primarily fuels-driven fire, and then when it gets in alignment with topography, that makes that fire growth a little bit greater, and then when you add wind or ventilation, then you can experience those really big days. So right now we have primarily the way the fire's moving is based on the fuels that are out there, all available to burn. So that's your briefing for today, and just want to say thanks, and you guys have a good day out there, and appreciate all the support from the community.